your bodies back. You'll have your bodies the way they're meant to work. Your bodies will be perfected. Jesus shows that to us. He gives us that hope. The second thing Jesus does is he shows them his nail prints right in the hand, right in the wrist where they would have nailed the nails. And that is so significant because think of it this way: the nail prints, those were the places that looked like the sign of defeat. That's the place on Jesus' body where it looked like the soldiers had triumphed. That's the mark that looked like evil had won the day. And what does Jesus do? He says, take a look. These used to be where it looked like defeat, but now this is a badge of victory. He shows us that what God has done in Jesus is he's taken the very worst thing in the world, the very worst thing that could happen, and he's turned it around to make it the sign of victory, to make it the proof of the most victorious event that has ever happened. And let me just tell you briefly what that means for you and for me. That means that God takes the very worst things of our experiences, the very worst things that can happen. And by the way, it doesn't diminish the pain that we experience. It just means that because of the resurrection, God takes the very worst things and he turns them around. And he will, if not in this life, then in the life to come, he will use them as a source of eternal joy and triumph. You know the words of J.R.R. Tolkien, right? Everything sad will come untrue. The worst pain that you experience will one day be a source, be a wellspring of everlasting joy. Now, I'm not quite sure how to. Sometimes it's hard to grasp it. Sometimes it's hard to believe that. Maybe the way to look at it is like if you've ever had the dream that someone you love very, very much has died. Horrible dream, right? And in that dream, if you've had that dream, you have an emotional experience, even as you're dreaming. The grief feels incredibly real. It's like you're dreaming and you feel like you're crying in the dream. And then you wake up. And then you look over and your spouse is still there, or you realize that your friend is still alive, your parents are still alive. And you don't just kind of shrug your shoulders and say, oh, well, it's nothing. No, you actually have an experience of joy there. It's like you want to call your mom or your dad, or you want to look over and greet your spouse because you're happy because all of a sudden you have this renewed joy. What was painful a moment ago was suddenly a cause for joy. And I want to suggest to you that we live in a world today where there's still the shadow of sin and death and pain and brokenness and loss and grief. But you know what? One day we're going to wake up and everything sad will be untrue. We're going to wake up into a new world, a resurrected world, where the work of Jesus on the cross and the power of his resurrection comes full circle. We're going to wake up to that. We're going to enjoy that. That'll be ours for eternity.